Hello and welcome to the Midweek Fix with me, Jamie Holme. I hope you're all keeping well and looking after yourselves. I'm delighted to say I can finally present one of these shows after a Liverpool win, which should make things a little bit easier. As always, the Midweek Fix is brought to you by footballprizes.co.uk. This week's prize is a good one. It's a framed Liverpool jersey signed by the main man, Jurgen Klopp. And plus in the frame is actually I know, mate, wait, that's not the best bit. Within the frame, there is a Champions League, Premier League, Super Cup and Club World Cup winners medal as part of it. So I think it's only $7.45 to enter. So well worth it for that prize. Now, tonight, joining me, I have our gaffer, Gav Doyle. I have the YouTube sensation, that is Grizz Gav, and our very own football encyclopedia himself, Keith Plunkett. Lads, it feels good to be doing one of these podcasts after a good performance and a win. It's been a while.
Yeah,
it certainly has.
Yeah,
You're surprised by my intro there. Did you like that intro, by the way? I thought that was all right.
I don't know about YouTube sensation.
I do. I know about it.
Do you?
But
no surprise.
Honestly, lads, it's an amazing feeling. It's crazy how much of an influence this club has on our mood. I mean, just us lads, like you know, we've been, even though we keep each other going, you know, and cracking jokes and sort of resorting to playing Warzone and everything, nothing beats an LFC win. And that yesterday was just, you know, it was just so good to have a clean sheet, to no injuries after the game, you know, and a sensational performance from my opinion anyway.
Yeah, Gav, I think one of the things that pleased me the most about the game is we looked a little bit like Liverpool again. You know, we looked solid, resolute, and the front three looked at it, or certainly Mane and Salah looked a threat. You must have been pleased with what you saw.
Yeah, first and foremost, results. You know, Shawnee said something to me last week. He said, "Gav, just results," and I'm with him on it. You know, like we capitalised on two. We capitalised on one definite mistake and then a misjudgment by the defender for the second, but it was a real open game, and I think it suited Liverpool. There was some shaky moments in it, but it's a European tie away to a very, very good side. But look, Jamie, all you want is wins. All you want is results. We've talked about the spark we need, or just to get a bit of momentum, and that'll help the team. But overall, yeah, listen, it was a bit more like it, wasn't it? There was more movement. Everything was done a bit sharper, a bit quicker. And look, after what we've seen, I thought we were quite good against Leicester for 70 odd minutes or whatever it was, 80 minutes probably. But that last night was. The big thing for me was a clean sheet. You know, I much prefer to win that 2-0 than say 3-1. I know it's a 2-goal win, but to win it with a clean sheet, there was moments that they had, don't get me wrong, it wasn't a perfect performance, but it'll be massive for the players to come away from that with a clean sheet, a win in Europe and 1 foot in the quarterfinals.
I think that's the big one, isn't it, Keith? The confidence. You know, we're going into the game at the weekend against, you know, an Everton with their tails up. All right, I think they're losing to City tonight, but they're still going to be bouncing into that derby thinking they can lay a glove on us. You know, we probably got everything we needed from that game, confidence-wise, going into the derby.
Yeah, I done the Red Reaction show last night, and Gar, Chris and Paul were on, and we were joking, saying, you know, it was nice to be on after a win, you know, and to see the positives. And there were a lot of positives. Look, we're not going to play teams like Leipzig every week. Unfortunately, we will be reverting back to playing the park bus merchants that'll, you know, won't open up the game, and that's a tactic that teams use, and you just have to find a way around it. But the more wins, as Gav said, we spoke on the Fatback 4 the other night, you know, the performances will come, but the wins, get the result, and then the confidence picks up, and you can see facets of the play in every game. Gav's right about Leicester, against City, against United. There was parts of the games where our play looked like it was coming back. West Ham, obviously, it all clicked. Spurs, we were very good as well. But if we can string, you know, a series of results together over the next few weeks, that puts Liverpool back to where we need to be, in my opinion. Now, last night was the perfect storm, because it was a great result, 2-0. Gav's right, no away goal conceded, but a clean sheet as well. Alisson came in for a lot of stick recently. We all know that. And the commentary last night had him down as being absolutely woeful as well, which was a bit unfair. He kept a clean sheet, makes an excellent save. And they're the things we have to work on. You know, they're the little things we have to get over. But we can't say we've turned the corner yet, because we don't know what's around the corner. Do you know what I mean? Like, we can say we're seeing signs of improvement, but we need players to stay fit, and we need players to start coming back, and we will discuss players coming back later on. But yeah, I thought it was great to have that confidence and that swagger back. And you're right, Jamie, you know, Salah, Mane up top, they looked at it, they looked hungry. We'll touch on other individual performances, but, you know, the midfield done well and the defence done well. It was a good all-around performance by Liverpool.
Keith kind of touches on Salah there, and I'll come to you on this one, Grizz. If you actually read out the stats of this fella, so 186 games, 118 goals, 41 assists, so that's 159 goal involvements in 186 games. He comes up with the goods yet again. He issued a rallying cry last week in terms of being able to he wanted the players to show up and they turn things around, and he was at the forefront of them starting to do that. Is he still a little bit underrated for you, Grizz?
Is he muted?
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Not now.
There you go.
Those numbers that you've mentioned. Yeah, I know you did. Those numbers that you've mentioned, Jamie, are insane levels. They are absolutely insane levels, and every week it seems like he breaks another record. Like every week we hear, Mohamed Salah reaches this number or this number, and you know it's pretty mad that in a season like sort of the season we're having, and the media agenda and narrative absolutely stinks. But it shows you. I just read, right, because I didn't read your agenda until about 2 minutes just before. As you do.
It's all right, mate. We're making it up as we go along anyway. Yeah, don't worry about it.
I quickly done some research, right? And lads, I'm deadly serious. Check this out. All right, guys. This season, right? So the agenda, the narrative, if you believe the media and if you believe every Tom, Dick and Harry on Twitter, it's Mo Salah's regressing, Liverpool regressing, it's awful. We need to swap him or sell him and bring in someone else. Well, he's scored more. He's outscored Ronaldo, Messi, Mbappe, Haaland, Neymar, Suarez this season. That's fact, guys. In this fucking season of seasons where it seems as though he's getting blasted from all quarters, you know, and he's outscored all these mega world stars. Does he get the same respect as the lads that we've just mentioned?
No.
I mean, it seems like Haaland is scoring or has scored 100 goals this season, but you find out that Salah scored more. It's unreal. The levels of disrespect will continue, unfortunately, in my opinion, Jamie, until he's no longer in the Premier League. And then we'll sit back in about 5-6 years' time and say, wow, Mohamed Salah really was one of the true greats of the Premier League. And all this, guys, say what you want. All this from a predominantly right wing forward position, not even a central position.
Yeah.
So it shows you the eye he has for a goal, and you just can't put money on that. You can't create that in someone. You can't build that in someone. You have it or you don't. And this is just unbelievable numbers, what you just said.
Can I jump in there before we move on? Jonathan in the chat makes a good point, and it's something I was going to bring up about Salah. It's I'll throw it up here. TalkSport only talk about Salah if he wins a pen, never about how good he is. And I was going to ask, like, did you even notice the narrative against City when he gets the penalty and the talk is about how he it's like he cons the ref into the penalty because it was relatively soft. You know what I mean? It wasn't. There was a narrative straight away about, you know, he wins that with the nearly a snoidness about it. There's never. The fouls that he doesn't, I think there was a stat up a few weeks ago, he'd only been fouled 4 times in the league this season, and he's getting shit kicked out of him all the time, but he's not getting any of the decisions. And he's doing this. I thought his play was a bit poor earlier on in the season, but he was getting the goals. Now I think it's absolutely flipped. I think his play is brilliant. I think he's coming really back into the Salah that we know, and it will be so destructive. Grizz touched on there about how he's playing from the right-hand side and he's not even playing centrally. You know, if they start moving him more central, you've seen it with the goal last night. It was an excellent finish, you know what I mean? And sometimes when he's too far out on the right, he's too predictable. If he's going in that bit more central, I think there's absolute buckets of goals from to be had.
I'm not so sure about that move tactically, because I think his movement from the right, Keith, is sensational. It's absolute elite. You know, very few, and we're so blessed to have Mane on the other side, who's just as elite. Very few forwards in world football have the timing. You can get quick players, right? So every club has a quick forward, every club has a quick winger. But the key to making space and the key to Mo Salah is the timing and the intelligence of their run whilst they're outside. They know when to drag the defender inwards, outwards, and outside. I think from a central position, I think you'd be restricting him. That's just my opinion. I don't think it would work.
That is fair enough, Grizz. That is fair enough. I think more centrally than he's playing, but not necessarily centre forward of a three.
Yeah.
We'll talk about, you know, things we can change later on, but, you know, I think he can be too predictable sometimes when he's out on the left. And look, Arjen Robben was the exact same. When he's on the right, Arjen Robben was the exact same. It's out, it's cut in on the left foot, and it's tried to bend one in. I just think the last few weeks he's looked more dangerous in around that central area because he hasn't been relying too much. You know, sometimes teams have sussed out double up on fullbacks or, you know, an athletic centre back, and you can sort of nullify him out wide. I think you get him a little bit closer at the goal. I think he can really do, you know, serious damage. And considering he's already plundering goals this season, I think he can do even more.
I think he's talking about centrally and right. I think if Liverpool get back to playing how Liverpool play, I think he's central enough. You know, like when you watch Liverpool in their pomp and they're playing and they're absolutely on fire, and you put, you know, if you have got Fabinho, Henderson, Thiago in midfield, and you have Mane, Salah, and you have those fullbacks, if you look at Mo's position in a lot of games and a lot of attacks, he is within the lines of the box. You know, he actually is. Like when you watch when Trent gets it or a midfielder has it, he's in them lines. You know, I think as in maybe 2 years, I'd say you could see him going centrally, but I think it might be something where you probably have to play two up front. Someone creative off him that he can use his pace and but I think he's a very good finisher, but I don't know how good of a finisher he is in those, you know, split second strikers goals, if you know what I mean. Like we've seen him fluff certain amounts of things where, but having said that, when he's too much time to think coming in from the right, it can be a bit predictable. You know, he's a weird one because when you see some goals, you go just instinct, bang, he's great at it. Whereas balls flashed across the box, and then he's on the end of, and he kind of flashes at a few, but he's a phenomenal player. He's a absolutely phenomenal player. And look, people still keep talking about, oh, if he leaves and does he want to go here and does he want to go there, and you know, I'm kind of going, why are we even discussing this? Shut the fuck up, because you end up talking yourselves into it. You end up talking yourself into it. We still talk about Luis Suarez, and Luis Suarez was a magnificent footballer for Liverpool, but I stand by this, and I've always said it. Mo Salah will go down as a better player for Liverpool than Luis Suarez, and I don't give a fuck what anyone says, because the goal record is just outrageous. And remember, he's playing, like you said, in a wide position predominantly. Suarez was a one-off. He was mad to watch. He was mental, but Salah for me just goes down. I think he's up there as the best attacker we've seen for Liverpool in the Premier League.
Why, Gav, then do you think he isn't spoke of in the heights of some of the other players that you've mentioned? Why do you think that there is that element of disrespect? And I suppose this not a narrative that gets pushed that he's selfish, despite him having how many assists did we say there? 41 across 186 games. You know, he's an unselfish runner in his runs off the ball. He presses very well. What is it? Is it the diving thing, the perceived diving thing? What is it that people just don't seem to warm to or put him on that high regard?
Do you know something? Do you know what I think goes against him? he's at Chelsea and it doesn't go well. He goes off and he's Fiorentina and Roma, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's on loan to Fiorentina and then he signs for Roma. I can't remember the exacts. But
Yeah, that's it.
he turns up in England, right? And it's all, and don't get me wrong, Liverpool fans were, will he be back up to Coutinho? You remember at the time we were thinking he was back up to the front three. That's what we thought he was going to be. And then he just shows up and he's 44 goals. And I think it goes against him. I genuinely do. Because if he turned up and done 20 and 20 and 20, people would go, he's so consistent and stuff like that. But you have to remember, like, his goal record is just phenomenal. I don't know why people don't respect him as much. I don't go in for the whole diving stuff. Do you know what I mean? It's quite clear that Mo Salah, when he stays up and he has hands around his neck,
he doesn't get anything.
He doesn't get anything, and people go, "Oh, well, it's part of the game." And then if he gets a little tug, like he did, I think it was a penalty against Newcastle at Anfield. There was one away at Brighton, and obviously the one there against City. They're three definites that you can say he gets a slight tug and he goes down, and he gets the penalty, and that's how it works. And are they penalties? Not in my day, they weren't, but in football today, they are. You know, and listen, if you're going to attack Salah like that, go ahead and do it. But don't bring me other forwards every week that do this. And like Anthony Martial done something a couple of weeks ago, right, which was unreal to watch, right? He ran through a couple of players. I think it was City in the league. He runs through a couple of players, jumps in the air, jumps on the ground, okay? And it's like, Anthony Martial dived. And that was the end of it. That was the fucking end of it. He does the same against Southampton and has the lad sent off. It was rescinded in the end, and it's nothing is said about it, you know. And then you see Salah, who he's had arms around his neck, he's had people fling themselves at him, and he doesn't get it. But when he actually does what other players are doing, and he feels contact, it's like, oh, Mo Salah's at it again. It's racism on a certain level.
Xenophobia as well.
But I think it is, and people would say it's not, but
it is.
I think.
Well, let's look at the perfect example. Look at the perfect example, Gav. The difference in narratives around Harry Kane compared to what he does, and that the narrative when he does it is he's being clever, whereas when Mo Salah does it, he's a cheat, and there's absolutely no difference in what's being done.
Jamie, I just wanted to sort of add on to what Gav said. There's absolutely a case for saying it's xenophobic, absolutely, and there's no shadow of a doubt about that. And we know racism exists and everything, but we won't go that deep into it. It comes down to, Jamie, that this British media are so powerful at creating narratives and agendas. They are the kings of creating narratives. Mo Salah, the first time he was around in the UK when he was playing for Chelsea, felt as though he was hard done by in terms of not giving a fair crack of the whip, etc., bombed out to Italy, where he rebuilt his career. And he often talks about his aim and his mission was always to come back and prove the media wrong. So some players are like that. They've got a thing against media proving things wrong, not just clubs and players, but the media of that country as well. He's refused to give a single interview to anyone in the British media, apart from the club media. He refuses to engage with anyone from the British media. And that's a killer for him in terms of the popularity stakes, in terms of the narrative they create around him. They hate it. They don't like it. And he doesn't care. He doesn't mind. As long as he keeps putting up those figures for Liverpool Football Club. I tend to get sometimes frustrated that he doesn't get the recognition, but he won't, because he hasn't engaged with the British media and he refuses to. And then when he does his interview, he done it with a Spanish publication, and that wound them up even more. So it is what it is. He's got this in his head that he was unfairly treated, and now he still feels unfairly treated. But the other day when he came out with that tweet, and he meant it, guys, because that performance yesterday was stunning from him.
He had the bit between his teeth. And LFC Aaron, thanks for the super chat. He agrees it's the xenophobic English media. And I'm English, by the way. I'm English as well, and I fully agree with you. Before one final thing, yeah, of course you can.
Can I just say something? To me, it feels like a lot of the media willing to die on a certain hill. And that's so, like Grizz says, he doesn't get a fair crack in England at Chelsea. It doesn't go well. He goes off to Italy. He does really well. And I remember Liverpool signing Mo Salah, and I say it again, we were thinking, will he be back up? How many games will he get? And he just storms the place. But there's so much media at the time saying You know, oh, Mo Salah, 35 million on Salah, the fella that couldn't do it at Chelsea. You know, the fella couldn't do he's no good. So when he starts racking up these goals and assists, like Grizz said, and continues to do it, people will die on that hill. And what they'll do is they'll just find another angle. You know, so instead of it being about his goals, first of all, when he first came, it was about his missed chances, despite scoring plenty of goals. It was his missed chances. Then they went on to his work rate. Then they went on to, is he a selfish player? Then he went on, now they're on to the fact that, oh, does he buy penalties? Is he a cheat? There's always a different angle. And it's just people that are willing to stick with an opinion. You know, like, instead of coming out and going, I didn't think 35 million was worth it, but my God, what a signing. They won't ever do that, because you know why? Because there's so much information in the world right now that if person A comes out and says, Jesus, Salah is absolutely unbelievable, within 5 minutes they'll have every article they've ever done or every tweet they've ever tweeted saying Salah is brutal. And people will just stick by whatever they feel at 3, 4, 5 years ago, because they don't want it all thrown back in their face today. That's what I think it is.
Yak sends in a super chat. Thanks very much. He says, missed the game last night. Where and how did Thiago play, lads? We love your insight as always. I love Thiago, so we're going to come on to him in a moment. But I do want to touch on one of the new lads who I thought was superb last night, given the performance at Leicester. And I'll come to you on this one, Keith. Kabak, you know, for a lad of 20 years of age, you know, after a difficult start, I thought he was okay at Leicester. Obviously, there was the mishap with Alisson. You know, to play in a game of that magnitude against a team that like to press and a high energy, that was some performance from the young lad.
It was, Jamie, and you know, you're right. I agree. Leicester, I thought he started off well. He looked composed enough, and I felt our team played better having him in there. And then the mishap happens, and you can understand then heads are gone all over the place, and the game gets away from us, right? That's fair enough. And for 20 years of age, Turkish international. But, you know, he's only in the country a couple of weeks. He's trying to learn the Liverpool system. Now, we know don't have the luxury of bedding players in at the moment. And Klopp always does like to give players months to learn pressing triggers, all that sort of stuff. To bounce back so quickly in a big, important game. Now, people can say, yeah, but Leipzig didn't really offer much. He stood up, and I thought he was brilliant last night. I thought he was what we want to see. I compared him with a few weeks ago as a mix between Martin Skrtel and Dejan Lovren. And I'm seeing nice that mix even there, more. I know, but I'm seeing it even more.
No, yeah, geez.
But it's actually the best parts of the two that I'm seeing in him. You know, he tries to be front-footed like Dejan Lovren was, right? But not as he doesn't seem to have the mindset of Dejan thinks he's the best in the world and goes and wins that, but he likes to come out and try and win it. And he's as tough looking as Skrtel. You know, Skrtel can be quite rash, but he could fucking tackle and he could hit you as well. And Kabak seems to have that blend. Now, I'm not saying he's got the bad points. He could have the bad points of both of them, but that's the sort of player that I see in him. And it's a toughness that we don't associate with Van Dijk. Van Dijk's as tough as they come as well, but you don't automatically think tough. Gomez, Matip, even Fabinho, they're not tough. This guy is tough, and he's tough in the sense he's 20 years old. He's something that we can mould and really work on. Now, if it doesn't work out when he goes back to Schalke, fair enough. But if he continues, if he puts in performances where it's improvement, do you know what I mean? People can be on the fence about Leicester. Last night was an improvement, and it's only a few days later, and confidence is low, and he's putting in that performance. I thought he was exceptional last night without going too far over the top. You know what I mean? If he plays in the derby, it's going to be frantic and it's going to be a different experience again. Let's see how he can handle that. But I'm excited to look at him going forward, and I'm excited to see how Klopp can develop him.
I liked what you said there in the comparison to Dejan Lovren, because I think we all agree that the problem with Lovren on his day, when he just focused on doing the basics, he was a solid defender. When he tried to be someone he wasn't, he made mistakes. That was the thing I liked about Kabak's performance. He was front-footed and aggressive, but a lot of the time he didn't force the game. So he just played the game that was in front of him. A lot of the time he'd win his individual battle and then just play the ball simply to somebody that was near to him. He was strong aerially. He actually anticipated the game very well. And for some reason, I think I put it in the WhatsApp group, it looked like he was running in treacle against Leicester, but he looked like he had a bit of pace about him last night. Grizz, when you look at the structure of the deal that we've put in place, there's a real carrot for him there for, to basically say, earn your contract, earn your stay here. And surely it's a win-win all around.
Spot on. That deal makes so much sense in this particular situation. He's got huge love for the club, and that's a massive bonus as well. He really wants to do well here. He's young. I've spoken about my personal opinion on him, right? And I gave the same comparison. I think we're probably on the same show, Keith, when I said, yeah, we both said, a mixture of Skirton and Lovren. But Keith's right in terms of the positive elements of them. He's also got huge leadership qualities at a young age. You see his interview yesterday. Can you imagine a 20-year-old making his Champions League debut, his first interview in English, which is not his language, and he was so calm and
he seems to back himself, Grizz.
Excellent, Jamie. Excellent point, Jamie. That's exactly what he does. But he won't go overboard like Degsy used to. Yeah. As you said, Degsy would take that literally onto the pitch and think he can do things he thought or he dreamt last night he was doing, right? Kabak is more of the skirtle in that sense. He will do what he has to and then give the ball to the more talented players a la Trent or Henderson, as it was next to him, or Thiago, who was ever collecting. Look, he has things to work on. I'm not going to suddenly sit here and say he's the complete article. He will make mistakes. He's raw. Yes, Leipzig was a far more comfortable game for him because it was played in front of him. What's happening now? Were you laughing at?
I'm just reading. I'm reading a comment.
Yeah. So again, I'm like what Keith said. The test will come in the hurly-burly of the Premier League, because that's where we need him to stand up and be counted, especially at a time like this. It would be lovely if he could have been eased in, but he's been thrown into the lion's den because of the situation we're at. So far, he's handled it well. Even against Leicester, I thought he was fine. I get your point about the running in treacle. That was the last 15 minutes. But you can imagine the intensity of the training and it took out of him. And even against and Vardy can run off a lot of centre-backs. Do you know what I mean? And so, it's no embarrassment there. I think it's a perfectly structured deal, though. That's the most important thing. If he doesn't do well, then we can move on. But if he does, he's got the potential to have a great career with Liverpool.
Can I just add on to that as well? One thing I noticed in Leicester, he got a ridiculous yellow card against Leicester. It wasn't even a fucking foul, and he got a yellow card for that. It could be along the similar lines to Thiago, I think, where he'll pick up a lot of yellows because the refs will just punish any sort of contact from him, and he's going to miss out on that whole bedding in period that players usually get, like Fabinho, Robertson, a load of them that were held back. And, we shouldn't get too panicky that he's going to pick up a lot of yellows. He just isn't going to have the time to really hone his game on it. Like, we're going to have the derby. It's going to be thick and fast. And then, there's going to be a few, we don't want to say easier games, but you might see the best of them over the coming weeks, you know what I mean? And let him sort of pace his way into the team over a period of time, which I'm hoping will happen with Thiago as well.
Absolutely. And that's the next topic that I want to come on to, is the midfield. And Master of Disaster sends a message which combines the two. He says, do we leave Hendo at centre-back for the derby, or do we try and take a chance getting back in midfield? He'd like to see Davies at some point. Now, Gav, before we kind of move on to the midfield, because there was a couple of talking points that came out of the game, and I think it kind of lends itself well for the rest of the season. How have you seen Jordan Henderson at centre-back? And given the influence that he has across this team wherever he seems to play, would you be of the thinking, try and get him back into the midfield for the derby? Or do you think he's having a positive impact with Kabak?
Like Jordan Henderson at centre-half is a necessity because of what's gone on. We know everything that's happened with centre-backs and stuff. And then our midfielder that's meant to be a centre-back, he's gone as well. So I'm not moving Jordan Henderson out of centre-back until Fabinho's back, and then I'm putting Fabinho back in there. You have Reece Williams and you have Nat Phillips and stuff like that. And you have this guy Davies. But for me, we're not walking into the top four here. We're in a battle for top four. and I want as many influential players on the pitch as I can. I want them all in their normal positions. I do. I want Henderson in midfield. I want Fabinho in midfield. But you have to caveat that with, can you go into a game with Davies and Kabak? You know, Kabak does okay at Leicester. I thought he was really good last night. A few moments where he was maybe out of position or not quite on the same wavelength as the rest of the defence. That's understandable. He's a young player that's only turned up recently, and you know he's learning, and it's going to be a steep learning curve for him. But I'm keeping Henderson where he is. I am, just for the simple fact that him and Kabak have played together twice now. There's a little bit more understanding. Ideally, I don't want to see Henderson there, but I think it's the right thing to do at the moment. Davies hasn't played yet. You don't throw him in a derby, not for me. Nat Phillips maybe in a derby. Reece Williams no. But do you know something? Like we're at the talking about Salah there, and we're going to go on and talk about Thiago, and we're talking about Kabak now, and Kabak's not there long, but I think it's affected them all. Clearly, something happened after that Leicester game with the squad. In particular, and Henderson comes out and says that the squad and the players take full responsibility for the form that they're in. Now, I don't think Klopp would let them take full responsibility. He is, ultimately responsible for what goes on. But something has happened, and something very positive has happened, in my opinion, because you see how better Kabak is last night. You see how better the midfield is. You see how much sharper they are. They seem to play with a bit more freedom. It's nearly like they turned up on Sunday and went, right, look. And a few people have said, are they feeling sorry for themselves? That might be a thing. But it looks to me like they turned up and went, listen, this is what we're in. There's nothing we can do about it. We're playing shit. Let's just throw all that away now. It's been shit for 6-7 weeks, whatever it might be. Let's just get rid of that now, and let's just play our game and see where it takes us. Because they have looked, Jamie, to me, to be not playing within themselves, because that makes it out like they're not giving it all. But do you know what I mean? Like they're losing some of their effectiveness because of the unsurety around the team, where I think now they've just gone, listen, this is what we have. We might be unsure about A, B and C, but let's just push on and see what happens. Now, I'm not, jumping on, I'm not up on rooftop shouting Liverpool are back and stuff like that. It's one game at a time, but I think something massive happened in that supposed meeting that they had, and I think it's just a case of, this is what we have, let's go for it and let's see where it takes us. I really do.
I'll be honest. I mean, some of the dressing rooms I've been in over the years, maybe there was an element of truth in that they had a few stern words to each other. And to be honest, sometimes that can be the best thing that can ever happen to a squad. It can pull you closer together. And I think whatever has been said has definitely produced a response, and a positive one at that. The one thing I want to move on to now, because there's a lot of comments coming in around the midfield, in particular one man who I thought was an absolute star last night. And I'll come to you on this one, Grizz. Curtis Jones. I mean, for a lad of his age, inexperience in playing in elite competitions, what a performance. I mean, this kid seems to have it all. I think there was a heat map that went across social media today, which pretty much had him all over the pitch. He was affecting the game offensively, defensively. He was playing the game at his own tempo.
Was it that Mickey Measles one? Was it that Mickey Measles one?
Yeah. But, when you're looking at a Liverpool midfield that has potentially lost a little bit of its way of late. Structurally, it hasn't looked quite there without Fabinho and Henderson. Is Curtis Jones now starting to force himself to be in contention to be a regular starter in this Liverpool team?
Zero doubt. Absolute zero doubt, in my opinion. I think it's absolutely fair to say that he's no longer sort of a future star for Liverpool. I think he is a star for Liverpool. And I tweeted yesterday after the game, and I really meant it like Mo Salah. That Curtis Jones, I always ask little questions of him in my own mind, and even to you guys. And you guys say, "Oh, Grizz, you're being harsh." You often say it. I put it in the group and I say, he's holding in too much, or he's giving it away too much, or his work rate, or he gives off this air of done it already and he hasn't, lads. Guys, every time I ask that question, he slaps me in the face emphatically with a performance that I think, well done, son. I just say, well done, son. Yeah. Yesterday, let's not forget that this Leipzig team is one of the best pressing teams in Europe, right? Statistically, right? I'm not a stats man, but I read that somewhere, done research.
Doing your research again, lads.
Yeah, research. This Leipzig team, and we saw that in the first 20 minutes from both teams. the pace was frenetic. It was a mental pace because both teams were brave and pushing up to the sort of, playing a high line. And so the midfield area was compressed like it's like how we used to, my lot used to play on the sixer side. Like, it was just mad. It was frantic. It was like sort of, there's no space. It was just pure, the strongest guy bullies his way through and scores, right? But this guy shone above the likes of Sabitzer, who's so highly rated.
Yeah.
Haidara for them. Gini for us. Thiago for us. Some great central midfielders there. And this guy stood out, Jamie. He was absolutely like a shining light. He had the most time amongst all of them. His selection of passing, he knew how many times he drove us up the pitch with his close control. His decision-making should be the least we should criticize because he's a young kid and that will come. But his touch, his control, he's got this aura about him at a tender age already and confidence in his ability. And the way, and what impressed me the most was when Jurgen Klopp made those substitutions to rest limbs and to sort of gain control. He trusted Curtis Jones to go alongside Gini and still maintain that balance. And that was a massive, massive tick in my box, because usually it's automatically in Jurgen Klopp's head to bring off Curtis Jones, the first substitution, but he trusted him and it came through. I think the sky is the limit for this kid.
I agree. And just to touch on, we were talking about the impact of Mo Salah before. M to the O has basically shared another super chat. Thanks for that, mate. Salah has created the most chances for Liverpool since joining us and the most chances out of forward players in the Premier League this season. So that paves the way. This selfishness streak that people seem to claim he has, it's utter nonsense. And we would be 15th without him. So a true leader, if there ever was one. Now, there was a comment that came in and it's come from Sam. Now, I love this comparison. Curtis Jones has the control and touch of Coutinho, but the energy of Hendo, the complete midfielder. Would you go along with that, Gav? What do you see as his biggest traits for a young player?
I think it suited him last night. The game was open, and I think it suits Curtis Jones if it's open. If it becomes a bit of a mad game, like Grizz mentioned, it's funny you mentioned five-a-side there. When you play five-a-side and it's just mad and it's open and you can do all mad stuff. I think that suits Curtis Jones down to the ground. You have to remember... me and Grizz have spoken about this. I've probably spoken to Grizz about Curtis Jones more than I've spoken to anybody about Curtis Jones, because I think me and him watched him in pre-season a couple of years ago and weren't too sure about him. We've said as well, we thought this season was going to be one where he bedded himself in and looked to push on next season. But circumstances as they are, he's now a fully fledged member, proper member of the first team squad. He's going to be in every squad if he's fit. It's not a case of we might drop him out for a couple of games. He's in every squad if he's fit. He had a downturn in form, but so did the whole fucking team. So did the whole team. So when you're looking at players at 19 or 20 or whatever he is, and you're going, he's not playing well look around him. Not many people are. But last night, what I seen from him was very good under pressure when he has the ball. There was so much pressure being put on Liverpool at times, and he's so good at getting out of that. And that comes from his time playing number 10, because he played a lot. I watched a bit of him when he was younger. Well, I say younger, he's only fucking 19, 20. But when he was playing the football, he played at 10. He would get his ball with the back to goal a lot, but he had that little burst to get away from people. He glides by people then when he gets you. When he stands you up and says, right, I'm going to go with you. But he was winning free kicks last night when other more professional players wouldn't. He was winning them. He was cute. I like that about him. But I don't want to get carried away, Jamie. He's a young player, and the more good performance we see from him, great. But you still have to hold back a little bit and go, Curtis Jones, this is his fourth real proper season. Let's see him at the end of the season. Let's see him next season. But I thought he was brilliant last night in everything he done. And like Grizz says, I think it's a massive vote of confidence for him that they are making subs, and it's Thiago that they take off, not him. Now that may be a fitness issue, but he's kept on the pitch. They take Firmino and Thiago off, two of the players you think are two of the better players in the Liverpool team, are holding the ball. Distributing and recycling and stuff like that, and he kept Curtis Jones. I think that was a massive nod to him. But as I said, I'll say with him, and I'll say with all the squad, last night was a start. We need to see this for 3, 4, 5 games, and then you come back and go, Jesus, Curtis Jones, that wasn't a flash in the pan against Leipzig. He's really kicked on, and again, I go back to it. I think any kind of clear the air talks or a few harsh words or whatever it might be may have been directed at Curtis Jones or different players in the squad, but you come out of it with a positive sort of feeling that, yeah, that's it. Like, that cloud's kind of lifted, even though we're not in great form. The cloud's kind of lifted, and let's go and play. And I think it suits Curtis Jones down to the ground, because if we play with a freedom, I think he'll excel.
There's a point that came in there from Red Steve. He said he's starting to look like he used to when he was playing for the unders. And two of my good friends, they coached him in the academy through a number of the age groups, and they said the way that he plays the game, like, he backs himself, but he's a confidence player. And I think when a player makes the step up, the intensity is high, the ball is moved a little bit quicker. You can't knock off. And I think somebody else in the chat made a point about him now becoming more aware of what Klopp wants off the ball. So the tactical side of the game, for example, it would have been a hell of a lot to Curtis Jones to play with the freedom that he's always been used to in the youth team, because to be honest, he was a level above everybody, so he could do what he wants. The team was built around him. He's now got to become a cog in a team while still being able to play with freedom, and I think he's now starting to make that adjustment, and he believes that he should be in this team, and he's offering the tactical side, but then also the expansive side. And I want to come to you, Keith, on another of our midfielders who has been in the news a lot over the last couple of weeks, and that is Thiago. Now, there's been a lot of questions thrown at Thiago, and there's a lot of questions asked about his signing. Has it fundamentally changed the way that Liverpool play? Does him being in the side mean we build slower? I thought Thiago was much more like the Thiago we know he can be. I still think there's a massive, area for him to kick on and improve even more. But he looked like the Thiago that we've seen in Bayern Munich in flashes. Where do you sit on the kind of Thiago debate?
I think this is another case of a media narrative and people in the media spouting an opinion about someone and it gathering legs. Thiago, I don't think Thiago's slowing Liverpool down. I think Thiago is taking time to adapt to the English game. He's 29, he's world class, but it is a big jump for him now. He gets injured early on. We remember his cameo against Chelsea for a half, and then the game in the derby when he gets injured. He was sensational. He was pinging the ball around. We weren't slowing, and he wasn't slowing us down then. Gets a bad injury and he comes back, and he's not come back at the top level. He's certainly not beyond criticism. But I found last night, I thought he was great last night, because I thought, when we signed Thiago, right, one of the things I remember talking with Shawnee on a show before about this, that one of the big points, Grizz probably knows this, he would have been a football man as well. One of the big things about Thiago is his ability to beat the press is one of the best in world football.
It's unbelievable to watch the way he moves his body. Yeah.
It's unbelievable how he does it, and his ability to nick the ball from the opposition and press high up is excellent. Now, we haven't seen it. He's been going to ground in all the games. I don't know why, because it's not how he sort of always operated. But last night we saw him winning the ball back by just getting his body in and just getting a toe on the ball and getting
apart from his dodgy tackle within 40 seconds, which he seems to do. That's his card now, isn't it? That's his party trick.
Exactly. Yeah. But that's it. In the Premier League, he's getting that yellow card every time, and it's hindering how he's going about the game, and he needs to get that out of his head. He's an intelligent player. He's a very good player. But I thought last night we saw what he offers at his best, in that he's winning the ball back but not committing fouls. He's nicking the ball and he's starting the attacks again. His passing is... Declan Rice done, I think, an interview a couple of weeks ago after we bet West Ham, and he said it about, it was like an education for him playing against Thiago, that he moves the ball so quick and so accurate that you can't really do one. And as we said, the counter is getting out of a press. It's a swivel of his body, like bleeding Elvis, a little swivel of the hips, and boom, he's gone. He gets over, and we'll see more and more of that. Now, I'm not going to say Thiago has been exceptional since he hasn't been exceptional. What I'm saying is, we're going to see gradual improvements, and it may be in the Champions League more than the Premier League that we see this. And then next season, a fully fit squad, a fully fit Thiago, hopefully we'll see the best of him. I wouldn't write him off. There's too many people writing him off. There's too many people taking pleasure in the fact that he hasn't been a 10 out of 10 for us. And as I say, the narrative about him being slowing us down, I think is wrong. I don't think he slows us down. I think he's sloppy in his tackling, and that's giving away free kicks, and that's adding to the narrative that he's hindering us.
Jamie, can I give you my opinion on Thiago, the situation with Thiago? And this is probably a beautiful segue into another one of your topics.
Oh, so you did read the agenda?
Correct, I did. Just about a couple of minutes, but I did read it. But listen, Thiago, I'm convinced, lads, convinced that Thiago was bought as part of the evolution that we talked about in terms of our system. Because Thiago wasn't bought to play as an 8 in a 4-3-3 in a Jurgen Klopp team. Because, and I've talked about this before, and it's so important that people understand and realize the difference playing in an 8 in a Liverpool system, which is evolved around our fullbacks, and the 8 has such a vital role and has to do some serious legwork. Hence why we have the likes of Gini and Hendo playing that role, or Milner, right? And hence why Naby, sort of has been sort of trained and groomed into trying to play that role, and he's taken his time. Thiago, in my opinion, was 100% bought to play in a 2. And we've talked about that 4-2-3-1 that we never fucking got to see because of the state of the injuries and the situation. Decimated our plans. Absolutely decimated our plans. It's a slight criticism of mine that Jurgen Klopp, in a couple of games, played him as that 8. And he visibly, guys, we talk about the eye test. He visibly struggled. We all love Thiago. We all know what Thiago is about, but we saw him struggling. And as a result, he wasn't able to track back, or he'd be tired and make fouls in the Trent area. And Trent was restricted in the way he played because he's used to having a Hendo there or a Milner there that knew his game inside out. I tweeted before the game yesterday, I hope to see Thiago more central. And I think I haven't seen any heat maps, but to the eye, I think he played far more central alongside Gini. And Mohamed Salah played as an authentic right winger. Did we see how many times Mohamed Salah was tracking back and helping Trent on that right side? It was like Trent and Mohamed Salah and Sadio and Robbo, as Sadio always does on the other side. It enabled Thiago to play far more central, and I thought that was absolute key. I think Jamie touched upon his, I think he said it in the WhatsApp group, or one of you guys said it. Absolutely. And that's it. And his first time passing is unrivaled, guys. Probably Verratti challenges him in that stake in terms of being one of the best in the world. But his first time pass into a player or vision is unrivaled. But I think the more he plays in that central position, and we pray our players come back and he gets a chance to play that alongside a Fabinho or a Henderson, there's absolutely no doubt in my mind he'll be a success. It's absolute bonkers that these people are writing him off. They have got absolutely no clue. They should tune into our shows and get educated.
I'm sure Gary Neville does.
I was going to say, Grizz, you touched on something then. I'm delighted that you said it, because Gav, you are probably the biggest advocate of the job that Jordan Henderson does on the right-hand side for Liverpool of that midfield, in being a facilitator for the likes of Trent and Salah to play their game. The 4-3-3, and I think Grizz is right, we touched on it in our WhatsApp group. Thiago, when he's on the right, you're asking him to do a job that he wasn't brought in to do. I don't want to see Thiago doing doggies up and down the pitch. I don't want to see Thiago with acres of space around him where he's rushing to try and close spaces and closing big gaps, and his legs will go in no time. To get the best out of Thiago, I think we've seen it in flashes before the lads got injured. Fabinho and Henderson give him the structure to go and create and influence higher up the pitch. Surely, Gav, if we're going to get the best out of him, you need to bring those lads in so he has the freedom to pick up pockets where he can influence the game and move the ball quickly into the front three's feet.
Yeah, listen, Thiago's a fantastic footballer, and I think he can play in a 4-3-3. I think he can play in a 4-2-3-1. I've no issue with him playing further forward if you play Fabinho and Henderson as a 2 and push him forward. I've no problem with him playing in a 2 deeper, and you put up a real number 10 ahead of him, because even in that situation, his vertical passing is phenomenal. He's he's looking over at someone in the main stand and he's whipping it the other way. Nobody knows where he's going with it because his technique is unbelievable. I do agree, though. I think we just, if you went with, so first of all, the form of Thiago. Thiago's come into this side. He's got injured. He's coming back. He's coming back from a bad enough injury, right? I think he wasn't well either. There was talk before the Spurs or West Ham game that he was literally puking rings around himself the day beforehand. But he said he wanted. I might have been West Ham, but he said he wanted to play, right? So he's shown a commitment there. He's come into an unsettled midfield that is fatigued because of a lack of rotation. He is being asked to work in a system that is not even what he would have expected to come into. He expects to come into a Liverpool side that dominate around the front foot, squeeze, press, look to get it, play it fast. And we've seen Liverpool over the last good couple of months where they start off a little bit, tracking runners a bit more, stuff like that. So it is a bit alien to him. But I get the 4-2-3-1, I get the 4-3-3. I think he can play anywhere once we get back to what we've seen before, because I think, and we've all spoken about, could you play Mane, Salah, Jota and Firmino? You absolutely can if Thiago's in that midfield in it too. You absolutely can, because I think you could see Jota on the right, Mane on the left, and Firmino going in as that 10, and Salah being pushed up, because you have it's easy to say 4-2-3-1, but if you have two fellas at the base that are hard working. And don't get me wrong, Fabinho is a good passer of the ball, Henderson a good passer of the ball. Thiago's on a different level, lads. A different level to them two, in a passing sense. So if you have them four high up the pitch, the hardest ball to play is into that fella centrally, from a deeper position, and you get teams turned. And there's no one better than Thiago. He's phenomenal. I'm not worried in one bit about him, because, as I said, you can point at Thiago all you want, but there's loads of other players you can point at and who's been out of form. When you see him, and the slowing down stuff is fucking insane. How quick he moves it and how precisely he moves it is like the amount of switch balls he hits, just bang, one touch, not even taking a touch, just hits them. Doesn't matter what way they come at him, he just hits them. He's a brilliant player. And people will say, well, who would you play in the two? Who cares? If you give Henderson a rest 1 week, you give Thiago a rest the next week, and Fabinho takes a rest the week after, you're rotating the squad and you're still keeping the quality. Don't be worried about him. When we get back to what we remember Liverpool as personnel-wise, I don't think there'll be any issue. And I don't think this two-man midfield becomes much of an issue, because we play so high with Van Dijk and Gomez that your two sitting midfielders could literally be in the final third. You know, the kind of way they literally can be. So tactically, it gives us more options, but I don't think it's something we have to worry about too much. We get the right personnel around them, and they're not fatigued, and they haven't been asked to play every minute of every game. Thiago will flourish. There won't be a problem.
Now, just one thing before we move on, just to finish off on the Thiago point. If people remember back to Fabinho, when he came into this Liverpool team, it's very, very difficult to play centre midfield for Liverpool in this current setup. Fabinho is elite in his position, and it took him a long time to adjust to the way that we play. So anybody trying to write obituaries for Thiago at this stage is...
Well, Fabinho was ran ragged at the Emirates, if you remember.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that was the point I made, Gav, about the spaces. If you don't know how to play in this Liverpool team, all of a sudden players can get in behind you on the wrong side. There's too many spaces, and at the moment we don't have the structure of Henderson and Firmino. So whoever is playing in there at the moment, structurally it's not the same. So there's too much space, and you're asking Thiago to basically do doggies. It will get better. We just need to get our shape back. Now, you touched on something there, Gav, which look at this, we're dovetailing perfectly. It's the next point on the agenda, and that is Diogo Jota. Now, if you're going to look, and I'll come to you on this one, Keith, players that can have an impact at the latter stages of the season, Diogo Jota, I should say, he's close to coming back. Gav touched on it there. You know, he gives us a new dimension in this Liverpool team. His runs in behind, his sharpness, and his finishing. He doesn't seem to miss chances. What a boost that'll be to have him back.
Indeed. And look, I just hope he comes back and is the same player that went out of the team, because he was absolute, hand in glove to what we needed and what we wanted from another forward player, and to get him back, and also Naby Keita. If we can get Naby Keita back, it's another body. And before I go on about Jota, you know, Gav touched on, you know, the personnel in there. If we'd have had our midfielders that could play in midfield, we'd have had such a selection. We'd have had Hendo, Fabinho, Keita, Wijnaldum, Thiago, Jones. You know, there's a lot of bodies there, but we just haven't been lucky enough to get them all in there into the midfield to rotate it. But Jota will come in and will, you know, he'll come in and he'll supplement the front line. He'll come in and he could replace Bobby in the front, and that puts Bobby to the bench, which would mean you're not looking maybe at Origi coming on. You're strengthening your bench with Jota. Not necessarily by having Jota on the bench, but by having him in the squad. And that's why we brought him in, to give a rest and to give, you know, to freshen up the front three without a drop-off in the levels. And we've seen it early on in the season. He was the one that was carrying it. He was carrying the attack. As I said, Mo was getting goals early in the season, but I didn't think he was playing too well. But he was getting goals. Jota was playing well. You know, Jota was the threat. You said it there, Jamie. His ratio of, you know, taking shots and hitting the target. You know, we're not hitting the target much this season, even though one of the top scorers in the league. We're not hitting the target much, and Jota was doing that. We get him back in, and it gives us so many more options. And it's all if. I know that we need to get these players back into the squad, into contention, and it obviously it makes our team stronger. It makes our bench stronger. It takes the reliance off on other players that maybe aren't doing it, aren't stepping up to it. And maybe not any fault of their own. You know, I've mentioned Origi. Origi hasn't been able to make an impact. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain hasn't been able to make an impact. Shaqiri hasn't been able to make an impact. And improving on those options, even this season with what we can get back, will improve us and will make us more of a threat going forward. Jota will be, I mean, the type of player he is, you know, he'll give us that spark that maybe our front three do miss at times. You know, Mane is starting to get a bit of a grind back in now. He's running more. He's looking a bit more himself, but he's not anywhere really near the level that he can be. Jota comes in and it just picks us up. Like Bobby's the obvious one that maybe loses out his place at the current moment. According to the fans, Jurgen might say it different, but it just gives us that option and strength going forward that we've lost since he got injured. It's
been after Virgil van Dijk. He's been the biggest loss of the season for me, and I mean that ahead of possibly Gomez and Matip as well. I genuinely do. Jota, again, like Thiago, was bought for a specific reason. We underestimate the work our analytical team does behind the scenes in terms of scouting these players and what we're looking for in a forward, and how we foresee them fitting into certain systems. And we've discussed sort of the role Thiago would have played. Well, Jota was absolute pivotal in terms of how we could have played as well. And we showed that at the start of the season. How many games did we went to Man City and played all four.
I was only thinking that before when Gav said about playing the two, and I thought the madness that we did at Man City and the bravery from Klopp to make that selection.
Jamie, we were the better team, Jamie, we were the better team in that game, in that first half. We absolutely shocked this Man City team, a full strength team, and we played with four. And I absolutely am of the opinion that he was bought again just to freshen things up. Well, he was bought to freshen things up, but sort of more so in terms of tactical adjustments that we could possibly make, tactical options, you know, and this is what we've absolutely missed. And it's so sad to see. You know, I often get sad, as you guys know, when I think what could have been this season. This season was meant for us to be just walking this league, honestly, guys, but it is the way it is. And, you know, Jota coming back could be this push, this psychological push that we need going into the latter part of the season.
Gav, when we talk about the impact that Jota had and would have had, given the start that he'd made, in the same breath, do we need to have a conversation about Bobby Firmino?
Yeah, a little bit. You know, I think, you know, we're not talking about Thiago there, and you know, we're saying about, you know, the person around him. How many times people are having to play football without a break, and not being able to rely on the backup, because as I said on numerous occasions, the backup are either not there, or when they are there, they're not good enough, or haven't performed. Now Firmino is a different sort of case, because I don't think his output was never exceptional. 2017-18, I think he gets 22 or 3 in all competitions. He's always been there as a facilitator for the two wide lads who feed off it most weeks, but that's even dropped off. Now, the one thing I will say for Bobby Firmino is he's always fit. He's always fit. He's always available for you, and he has been like this for the last. You're verging on 4 years of football. You have to be, because I remember going back and thinking the 2018 World Cup and people going, "Oh, Bobby doesn't have a rest in him now." And because if you remember that summer, we're thinking we can go for the league. We'd lost the European Cup final, but league, and we're all looking at the World Cup, and we're all looking at who's playing and stuff like that. And I remember then thinking, "Oh, Firmino's going to be in the but he's played so much football. I think he's still trying his absolute best. There is flashes there, but I think the output has dropped off, and that's where Jota comes in, and that's where Jota did come in, Jamie. Jota came in and he was something different. He had energy. He was running from deep. He was breaking lines from deep. Everyone was used to Firmino coming a bit short and trying to play quick football, where Jota just went, I'm just running fucking straight at just, and it's not something Liverpool where we're known for, just massive deep runs, and he was brilliant at it. I don't want to put too much pressure on Jota, because he's coming back from a decent enough injury, that kind of way. But what I'm saying is he'll be there. And that's what I mean by another body. When we are talking about centre backs and all we need is a body, I'm not talking about that. That's flipping a coin and hoping it works. Jota, we know what he can do. That's another body. That's somebody that comes in and he might take 4 or 5 games to get going, and that's fair. But in that 4 or 5 games, he could be doing 20 or 30 minutes for you and make a difference. On Firmino, I'll be interested to see when Jota comes back exactly what sort of form Firmino ends up in, because Firmino seemed to perk up a little bit, if you remember rightly, when Jota came in and played well. So, but if Jota comes in, hits the ground running, and you give Firmino a little break, or Mane or Salah, because they're playing a hell of a lot of football, it can only be good for Liverpool. That's what you want to see. And Naby Keita the same. Naby Keita's injury record is not good enough, but if you get him on the pitch, he's a really, really good player, and he's another player that you come in and go, he's not around enough, but he is the sort of fella you can rely on when he plays, Jamie. That's being honest with you.
Now, Grizz, I want to come to you on 2 things. First one is a lot of love for the gun show going on tonight, Grizz. Everyone's complimenting the old guns being out, mate. Short sleeves. We had somebody comment that your guns are bigger than their belly. You've been working out there, lad?
Accidentally showing off my guns. Not really guns anymore. I've told you before, Jamie. This keto is not very good for the muscle mass. Yeah, muscle mass.
You're not even on the keto.
Yeah, well, I'm just giving you a fact about keto.
Yeah, but you can't give a fact about keto when you're not fucking on it. You're like, you know what I mean?
This conversation's listen. We stick to the random.
He has a love-hate relationship with the keto.
We're in a serious football chat here. Carry on, James.
Talking about
he just says keto all the time.
I think
talking about men that are in fine physical condition. Naby Keita is another player that has been put on one of your diets. I think Grizz, he's looking ripped now. Keto diet. He's got his own training program. Where do you put Naby Keita in this Liverpool squad? Because I feel like it's a conversation about promise and talents, but never really about delivery on the pitch. The question is, we all know he's a great player, but how often can we get him on that pitch? Do you believe that he can have a big impact for this Liverpool team in the second half of the season?
If he stays, I know it's simple, but if he stays fit, yes. And that's the biggest if, bigger if than my biceps. Jamie, he's talented. He's skillful. We've seen glimpses of what he can bring to this team. The heavy stats guys will tell you he's creates the most and he's been this and he's been that. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. His career has not been a success at Liverpool. I don't give a shit what stat you throw at me. And that's not being stubborn. That's me being a Liverpool fan who wants the best for this team. And a fully fit Naby Keita before the Naby accounts start jumping on my head. A fully fit Naby Keita is would be amazing for this team. But if he's not fit, then you got to be cold-blooded and you got to be ruthless and you got to move him. Don't get me wrong. There's others that need to be moved on before Naby. But if he doesn't stay fit, and I know it's not his personal choice to remain unfit, it's unfortunate, or call it what you want. He's got to stay. And I think this phase of his injury, or this period he's been out, a lot of talk has come out in terms of him doing extra work with our new medical man, sort of post-match, who deals with post-match injuries, and sort of, helps them recover and not break down again. This is his, for me, in my personal opinion, it's his final chance, Jamie. He's got to stay fit. He's got to remain fit. He's got to play an active part in this Liverpool team for me not to want to sell him, because his value will only go down. A fully fit Naby Keita does wonders for this team. I'll stick by that. I'll stick to that. I'm not going to ever doubt his talent, but you got to doubt his durability.
Paul Gormley makes a similar point, and I'll come to you on it, Keith. He says, I think we'll sell Naby and Taki in the summer to raise funds. Do you think this is last chance saloon for him, Keith?
I don't. I don't think he's at peak value. I don't know if it's really worth selling him at the moment. I mean, it's one of them things. Some people will just be over critical of Naby Keita, and some will say he's the best thing. Grizz touched on it. The stats guys will all say he's this, he's that. We say on this show all the time, the best ability is availability, and Naby doesn't show that. I mean, Joe Matip will be one of the best centre-backs in the world if he wasn't made out of Kinder Bueno. Do you know what I mean? It's having them on the pitch and playing. Gav touched on Bobby Firmino's. He's always there. He's always fit. If Naby could stay fit, he's one of the best pressers in the world. High up the pitch, he can snap in. And what that would give this team, the pressure it take off the team when you can do that, it's brilliant. But he's not there all the time. So if Liverpool were to look to sell Naby Keita in the summer, what are you getting? Do you know what I mean? What value does he have? You're not getting 53 million for him. You're not getting higher than 53 million for him. You might get a trade against it. They don't tend to happen too much, but you might be able to, people would say Naby back to Leipzig and take a Konate, for example. Just throwing that out there. You're still going to be throwing dollar on top of Naby to get him in. And if he can get him fit, if his new fitness plan works out with this new fitness guru and you get him playing, well, then it's not worth selling him and taking a hit on him. If they can get him working, if you can fix him, he's a huge asset to the team. A huge asset for what he brings. But he just hasn't been able to bring it. So it's in the air. His career is in the... I wouldn't say sell him this year, but I do agree with Grizz that he's in the last chance to saloon. I think if he can't stay fit and push on, I think next summer could be moved on. That's just my opinion, and I wouldn't want to say it.
Gav, where do you sit on this? Do you think that, because I think it's telling that the club, I don't think he's actually been injured for a while. I think the club have said, look, we can't keep doing this 3 games in, 5 games out. Let's just keep him out the side and do some proper strength and conditioning work and make him more robust, because the way it was going, he wouldn't have been at Liverpool for long, surely.
No, I said it from the start. Naby Keita has all the tools to be a fantastic footballer at Liverpool, simply because of the attributes he has. I think suits us down to the ground. Like Keith says, he's very good at nipping in, getting the ball. Liverpool are great at that. When they're flying, they don't throw loads of tackles in. They just nip in, get it off, you play, and they're gone. And Keita can do that. We've seen it at Leipzig. So good on the ball, he can go by players. I haven't seen it as much as Liverpool. It's like he's regressed a little bit physically, and that little extra yard since he's arrived at Liverpool hasn't been there. Listen, there's no way he's injured, because I think he plays away at Palace, and he gets a knock and he's not there to follow midweek or whatever it is. And Klopp's comments where he's just a little bit injured, that's going back 6, 7, 8 weeks, I don't know how long ago, right? There's no way he's injured. But I agree with you, Jamie. I think something's being done here where they say, and I think it is a signal of a last chance saloon, like Grizz says. I think they've said, listen, we're taking no chance with this fella anymore because we can't continue this process. We're going to just keep him off, and we're going to bulk him up, run him and do all the tests and all the stats on him until we say, listen, he's trained solid for a month, 6 weeks, and he's no breakdown, no reaction to nothing. He's ready to go, right? I agree with that. The only thing I would say is I'm really sure Naby Keita has 2 years left in his Liverpool deal this summer, right? Possibly 3 if he signed a 6-year deal, but he arrives in the summer 2018, if I'm right. So you're looking at 2 years left. It's starting to become decision-making time. You know, I think it'd be a stretch for Liverpool to go and extend his contract this summer, but I think it might be a case of having a look. I could see him coming back next month, Jamie, and I could see the next. I could see them following 2 or 3 months, being the time when they actually make a definite decision on Naby Keita. I'd love nothing more than them to come back, and I'm not asking them to fucking tear the play apart, but I've always said it. Put 15 games on the trot, mate. Put 15 games on the trot, and if you get assists and goals, that's a bonus. But at this moment, and it's never shown more than now, being available is a massive at the minute. Massive at the minute. And he's one of those that's not. The next step in that is being available and being influential. And I think he can be if he's fully fit with a run of games. So one marries with the other. But I agree with Grizz. I think this is the last chance. And I think it could be literally down to the last possibly 3 months of this season where a decision is made. Because if he gets the 2 years left and this continues on for another season, then you're down to 1 year left and he's shown another year where he's unreliable and he can't get on a football pitch, and then you're looking at him going for nothing.
Now, there's one more topic that I want to touch on quickly, because me and Gav have got an agreement that we're going to finish at 15:15 because we're going to go and play computer games with each other, right? So
we're 11 years.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Now,
this game up after 6 minutes last night, which was amazing.
Are you going to try tonight, Grizz? Come on,
no,
you can give it.
No, stop that.
He actually asked.
You can see in the background, it's all set up, right? Everything. Stop laughing, Gav.
He asked earlier. Is there any way I can just come in and watch you playing?
Yeah, just hide. Don't get shot.
Don't get me wrong. It's a magnificent game, and it's beautiful to be part of it. But I just prefer the walking bit.
So you're saying you're more of a tourist, are you?
Yeah, do you know what, Keith? I wish I could play it. I tried it for about 30 seconds, and it's not the same. I got run over by a truck and shit. It's not for me. Pass. For those wondering what the hell we're talking about Warzone, the game on the PlayStation, Xbox, whichever you play on. We've all got into that big style. But yeah, Grizz is not a fighter. You just want to enjoy the scenery, mate. Is that right? Exactly. I just want to watch you guys, shoot the fuck out of each other. And carry on. It's not for me.
Right. So last point that I want to make before we wrap up and go play video games. And a couple of people referenced Grizz at the start of the show. There is a little bit of noise in the media around Kylian Mbappe and 200 million deals. And Liverpool are one of the suitors that are not put off by that 200 million price tag. Anything that you can share, or what do you think on that? Do you think it's a load of nonsense?
No, it's not. It's nothing to share, Jamie. It's very known. It's publicly known. We hear about it all the time. The link doesn't die. Jurgen Klopp. Do you know we often talk about sort of Jurgen Klopp and FSG and the relationship he has, and sort of especially the transfer side of things. I was thinking, because when Jurgen Klopp puts his foot down and he's wanted a specific player, he's usually ended up with that player, namely being Alisson, Verge, Naby Keita, and Mbappe is a player that he's admired for years, and he's spoken to in 2017 to his parents, to his family. He spoke to Mbappe himself and said, "I will always follow your career. I will, I'm interested in you at every stage, every level of your progression." And it so happens that he's coming to the last year of his contract at Paris Saint-Germain, and it seems that he's refusing to sign a contract. Now, Paris Saint-Germain are the richest club in the world, but they won't want to let go of a potentially 150 million player for free. Now, the funny thing is, and this is what you get on social media, and I get it today, because I just tweeted, look, continue thinking that we can't get him, because that's the best way. Instead of buying into that, just continue thinking we can't get Mbappe. But I know for a fact that we want him. I know for a fact we are trying to work a deal that enables us to get Kylian Mbappe. Now, I'm not a financial expert. I don't know the ins and outs how we're going to do that, but I know from someone that we are trying to work on a deal. And people talk about, oh, well, we can't afford that. He's going Madrid. Has anyone actually analysed the state of Madrid's finances? Like, it doesn't make sense to say, oh, Liverpool can't afford him, but Real Madrid can get Haaland. Who else are they getting? Alaba. Who else, Keith? They're linked with something.
Hyundai.
They're getting.
Yeah.
Guys, people underestimate the power of Jurgen Klopp. Now, yes, absolutely yes. Kylian Mbappe, if he asks for the numbers that are rumored to be out in the press, then sod it, forget it, go to sleep. But Jamie, you know as well as I do, and we all know, there's certain players in the world that are not motivated by just money and figures. They aren't. They look at the project. He's a young lad. Maybe he wants to play for Madrid at some stage in his life. Coming to Liverpool now still enables him to play for Madrid at some point in his life, because the fact that he's 21, Keith, or something like that, 22.
Yeah.
He can give us a good 4 or 5 years, just because of the fact that he wants to play under Jurgen Klopp, and then progress to Madrid, later in his career, because Madrid's a mess as well. Let's not beat around the bush. And realistically, we're the only 2 clubs that are interested in him and go for him and showed that passion to get him. I'm not ruling it out. I don't rule it out, because I know for a fact we're trying. As unlikely as it seems, don't ask me about the maths behind it. It's a project that I wouldn't sort of sleep on.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Absolutely, there's a chance.
Okay, there you go. That'll do for me. Gav, you ready to go shoot some guns?
Yeah, just on Mbappe. Shawnee was telling me that has he got a year left on his deal now, or 2?
No, he's got a year, Gav.
From this summer, he's 1 year left, because that's Shawnee was saying to us last week that there's talk of 90 million is the number. Now, if 90 million is the number, I'm all for it. But judging on the financial situation in the world right now and FSG's way of doing things, the only way that happens for me is if a player leaves Liverpool. And Mbappe is a fantastic talent. Like people are saying in the chat there, 75 million gets you Haaland on his buyout. I think Haaland is nailed to go to Man City, to be perfectly honest with you. I think he's Aguero's replacement. But Mbappe is just unbelievable. But we'll have to wait and see. I think it's, as I said before, it's a massive summer for FSG for me. Massive. And I think it's happening at a bad time for them. But I think if they want to keep Klopp hungry and this squad hungry, I think this is the summer where they need to make moves and make them big in order for Klopp to fulfill the talent or the potential that could be in the squad if they spend before he goes in 2024, because I do believe he will go in 2024. So we'll have to wait and see.
One of the key points, sorry Grizz, before you jump in, because you're a football man, you'll probably steal me point. One of the key points about the Mbappe and Haaland, people say, Haaland you get for 75 million. We need, and let's not be fools about this, we need the player to buy into what we're offering, and we need him to want to play for Klopp and want to play for Liverpool. We need that. We can't compete with the other clubs on wages and on things like that. So while Haaland's buyout might be 75 million, Haaland has no indication that he wants to play for Liverpool. He will be, and nothing against the lad, he's going to go to the highest bidder that'll pay the money. Man United, Man City, Real Madrid, Chelsea, all these teams will pay more than Liverpool will pay. We need to play on the fact that Mbappe flirts with Liverpool and Klopp flirts with Mbappe and try and get a deal done that he wants to play for the project. It's not about Haaland is cheaper. You need the player to want to come and probably, make his wages up in different, more creative ways. If the auditors are listening, I didn't say that, but we need them to be a bit more savvy. And it's not just about going out and buying I was going to say Alfinga Haaland, Erling Braut Haaland. It's about the player having to want to do it. So Mbappe, for as mad as it seems, does seem like the most realistic option. And saying that, we could end up with Ricky Lambert.
Just a couple of words. LeBron, Nike, Mbappe, LFC. Just keep an eye on that.
Okay.
Yeah, very true.
I'm off to do some research on that.
Right, lads. On that note, Gav, Grizz, Keith, it's been an absolute pleasure, lads. Thank you very much for joining me again. Quick shout out just before we go to football prizes. As we said at the start of the show, there is a Jurgen Klopp signed jersey with the 4 medals included in the frame. So Premier League, Champions League, Super Cup and Club World Cup winners medals, $7.45 to enter. So make sure you go check that out. Make sure you all enjoy yourselves. Have a good week. Look after yourselves. It's not an easy time for everybody, but we appreciate all the chats that have been coming, firing in. Gav, what have we got coming up the rest of the week?
Grizz is doing some carnage tomorrow. We finalised that today.
Yeah, we're going to cause some carnage tomorrow.
And Friday night will be the forecast. Don't know who's on that yet. We haven't sorted that out. We're off on Saturday, and we'll watch the derby and enjoy that, and we'll be back on Sunday with the Fatback 4.
Perfect. Right, lads, look after yourselves. Everyone in the chat, take it easy. All the best. See you next week.